What's up, you guys? Danger Rock here. Today we're going to be looking at the spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Charged Spider-Man with snap-on shock gloves. This figure was released in 2009 by Hasbro, and it's a really unique Spider-Man variation to the cartoon. Taking a closer look at the figure. First thing we're going to do is take a look at his accessories. So he comes with these two snap-on gloves that can slide right onto his hands. Both of these gloves are gray and almost like an orange-brown color. These look really, really nice. On the back right here, you could see these two spots where they just clip onto his hands. I tried to slide them on so it wouldn't mark up the paint. What's really nice is that he's got these two fisted hands right here. On him right here, only one of his hands right there is open. So before we put these two gloves on Spider-Man, let's first take a look at him himself. And what's really interesting about him is when I saw this, I thought this was just the black costume Spider-Man, just painted completely in a different color, which what I really like about this is it has that accurate body mold to the cartoon, but the colors are completely different. And the reason why I say that is because this design was actually never used in the show. These shock gloves, though, however, were seen in the show in one of the episodes titled Persona, where Spider-Man first gets his black suit and he fights the chameleon, who was the Spider-Man imposter, and he electrifies him when he tries to punch him with these shock gloves. So it was really nice that they gave us these shock gloves in figure form, even though he wasn't wearing this color costume. However, though, this costume, researching it, is a real thing. Now, this was called the Electro-Proof suit. And what's so interesting about that is on the back of the box that this guy came in, it says, next time Spider-Man faces the Shocker, he will be more prepared with these shock gloves. And what was interesting is in the comics, I guess he only used these gloves to fight Electro, who was a villain completely made of electricity. And even though this purple and red design never showed up in the cartoon, it did show up in the comics. But what they did do was they gave it the look of the cartoon, which is actually something really, really interesting. Another thing that's really unique about him is that they didn't just decide to just take another Spider-Man figure and just paint him red and purple. They actually added this texture to him, which is like this metallic red armor that when you feel it, it's not just straight paint. It actually has a little bit of roughness to it, which I actually really like, is that it almost kind of looks like an armored Spider-Man costume. Which it's not armor, it's just the look of the way the suit was made, I guess. But what I really like about it is, for a comparison, here I'm bringing in the original classic superposable spectacular Spider-Man. And what I noticed right here is that they took this spider right here on his chest right here, made it a lot bigger, but they made it red this time, which is actually really, really nice. And I like the way his eyes are white and really, really big, like the black costume Spider-Man, and they're not in this standard pose. This kind of almost looks like his eyes are in a squinting pose, and the eyes look a lot smaller here, but that's the way they looked in the show. So setting aside from his paint details, moving in the articulation with this guy, it's actually really, really nice. I could not only fully rotate his head, but his head has a pivoting joint right here, which actually lets him nod side to side. His arms and elbows go upward that far. They could go down that far. They bend at the elbows. He has this torso articulation here, which can rotate from side to side, which is really nice. His legs do kick outward that far. They're actually on a ball joint, so you would actually have to rotate the ball joint in a way if you wanted to get him doing a split or kicking outward side to side. His knees do bend, and he doesn't have any foot articulation at all. He just has some peg holes at the bottom of his feet. So what we're going to do now is just go to the best part and attach these shot gloves. One slid on nicely. Now let's try to get this one on. And this one was actually a little bit harder to get on because, as you can see, he has a fisted hand. But what's really nice about these accessories is that he's superposable. That if I wiggle this guy around, these gloves will not fall off of him, which is really nice. So what we could do is, if we get Spider-Man in a punching pose, like he's about to punch the hell out of Shocker, his fist will go up like that. And even though these gloves aren't really heavy, it kind of does make his arms right here a little top heavy. But if I want to pose him like that, where his arms are up and he's in a fighting pose, and I stand him up straight, he will stand up perfectly fine with no balance issues. The gloves do not weigh a lot that it would actually cause the figure to fall in any way, which I actually really like. And it gives me more posability options that if I want to have his gloves pointed out like this, and I wanted to have him doing an uppercut, punching a villain, and stand him up like that, he could stand in that position as well. So it's actually a really unique posable figure. And another thing that I think is unique about these Spectacular Spider-Man figures is that even though they're from the best incarnation of the wall crawler, is that these figures were released around 2008 to 2009, and Disney's merger with Marvel completely killed this cartoon, which was a shame, and the associated toy line with it. But these guys came out at a time where Marvel Legends were like dying on the market. Toy Biz had just gone out of business, and Hasbro picked up the license to produce any kind of Marvel superhero toy. And their first offerings weren't that great in terms of comic book accurate figures. They've definitely improved, and they've gotten more detailed over time. But these figures right here had all these articulation points and details that some of the other Hasbro figures didn't have. And what I actually like about these is that they actually respect the source material. They look exactly like they leaped right off of the screen right here on my table. And to show you guys a difference in quality over time, because these came out around 2008 or 2009, here I'm going to bring in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon figure, which was released by Hasbro in 2012. And looking at him, he looks pretty good. He's a little bit shorter than these two guys, though, which is okay because this is a different version of Spider-Man. Although this does look like the cartoon, he just isn't as posable. I mean, yeah, I can move his arms up and down. I can move his head. His feet do hinge up and downward. And yeah, some of these later figures did have more articulation to them. But another thing that's missing here is, as you can see, he has sculpted in web lines, which are really, really cool, but they didn't paint them, which is something they did do on this one. I like the way they sculpted it and they painted it, which sometimes I feel like on Spider-Man figures that when you paint the web lines black on a figure that's red and blue, and the black is too dark, or the black like bleeds through, it just kind of looks like a giant sculpting mess. But on this guy, it doesn't look that way. As you can see, the web lines are completely spread out nicely, and they actually resemble the look to the cartoon, which This one right here does as well, but they're sculpted and not painted. I mean, I guess that if they were to paint this guy, they thought this is a smaller figure, and maybe the black would just cover the red, which is not good, and it's kind of hard to tell if it's a Spider-Man figure or not. But something I feel like they could have done with these is at least gave us like bendable elbows and made bendable knees. I'm not saying they had to make the wrist or anything rotate and give it all this crazy detail to it, because they're like, if we're gonna market this toy to kids, we don't have to include all that detail, but we got to make it look like the cartoon. And then it kind of seems like what they went for here is they're like, we're going to market these towards adults and not kids, and give them all these accessories and all this posability, and then just not include it with the later released figures, which was actually a disappointment. But going back to these two guys right here, even though, like I said, this costume was never even used in the cartoon, he does have enormous amount of sculpt detail. He has an enormous amount of articulation, and the fact that they include accessories. Now, this guy did also come with a little tiny spider for the spider charged wave, but actually doing my research on that, it turns out there wasn't any specific spider that came with any specific Spider-Man. They were just these tiny little spiders that came in all different colors, and it kind of looked more of like a spider tracer or a spider slayer. For me, on display, I guess what would look really cool is that if I just want to put spiders all over the place, they blend right in with these. But I actually wish Hasbro would actually redo these and actually re-release these, because these haven't been made in over 15 years. So it would be nice if we actually get these guys just a little bit bigger, with just a little bit more accessories. And seeing how this guy made a cameo appearance in Across the Spider-Verse, I feel like that would be the perfect time to re-release these guys. So it also leads me to believe that maybe these were discontinued because of licensing and marketing issues between Sony and Marvel at the time. So that's might be another reason why these were never released again. But Marvel retains the merchandising rights to all things Spider-Man, so it would make total sense to me if they actually remade these figures. So, my final thoughts on this guy, as far as buying tips go for this guy, he is ridiculously expensive. I remember at the time these retailed for just under $20. I think they retailed for around 10 to $15 at the time. Sometimes you could get them even cheaper if you got them at Kmart or Toys R Us. And doing my further research on these guys right here, loose, I've seen them go from $50 to hundreds of dollars, depending on which ones they are. And mint on card, I've seen this guy go for like $200 plus, which is actually a lot. I think the lowest price this guy ever sold for was $125 to $150. And I guess you could get them even cheaper than that, but just without these shock gloves right here, which is kind of a disappointment because it's like the whole grail piece to the whole figure. So, if you pick this guy up, you definitely want to pick him up with his shock gloves. So, this has been my review of the Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Charged Spider-Man with snap-on shock gloves. If you like this video, please leave a like. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let me know in the comments section down below. What do you think of these figures? Do you think these were the best figures Hasbro ever released? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you all for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the next video review.